Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Happy Veterans Day out there to all our veterans. I hope that you're enjoying the day. We had a really nice day here. It was kind of warm too. It was like in the high 60s, so it was really nice out for Veterans Day for once. Usually it's raining and cloudy and, miserable, but this year, no, not this time. So we're kind of good that it happened. With the holidays coming, it looks like there's going to be a lot of strife in families' homes this year for Christmas, Thanksgiving. It's a result of the election, and there's a lot of stuff being discussed online, people being disowned by their families, husbands and wives separating, neighbors getting at each other's throats. I mean, I don't see this as going to be a very good holiday season here for a lot of Americans, and I'm sure that people will try and blame Biden for that too, like everything else, that they think he's done wrong. But there's a video here that talks about that, and I want to take you to that video, and we'll start that right now.
Some of Donald Trump's voters are already facing the consequences of their votes, and we are now seeing panic, fear, and regret amongst individuals in the MAGA community. Whether it's workers and businesses being impacted by tariffs, Trump voters realizing their families will no longer talk to them, or reality setting in that Trump actually wants to do all those horrible things he promised on the campaign trail, we are seeing signs of this instant regret all over the place. My name is Brett Meiselas here with the Midas Touch Network. Remember to hit subscribe if you are not backing down from this fight for our democracy. Let's dive right in. Here is a woman who voted for Donald Trump, who is now devastated that her family, her grandma, her mother, her sister, will not speak to her anymore. Watch this.
This is my last political post, okay? I'm gonna lay it to rest. Let me just tell you guys, I'm not crying happy tears. I'm not gonna be apologetic for being excited, because if it was the other way around, all of the Kamala supporters would celebrate. I want to say that first. I'm very relieved because I voted what I believe in, and I felt heavy on my heart that it's the right thing. So knowing that it was the decision the American people made, I'm relieved and I'm very happy. Very, very happy, okay? It's the very first day of finding out the election results. All of us are happy. I'm very happy, but I'm not going to continue to post about it, but I'm also not going to be sorry about it. And I always talked about how my family, sorry, I don't want to make this more than once. I always talked about how my family had different beliefs, my grandma and my mom and my sister, and how we always got along. And I wore my grandma's sweater to go vote, and I'm so sorry. I'm trying not to cry, okay? But my heart's broken.
Try not to cry.
Yeah, try it. My grandma just sent me a very sad text. It broke my heart. And my mom has yet to text me back today.
Am I real?
My point of making this video is to say that I am very happy and I expressed how happy I was. And I'm not gonna be sorry for that. I'm completely heartbroken that my family is taking it how they are. I never did this to them when Biden won. Never. But I am done with political posts. From here on out, it's back to normal. If you don't like me because of who I voted for and you have to unfollow, go ahead. My own family unsubscribed from my life, so you can too. I promise. It doesn't get worse than that.
You know, this is not an isolated case. The thing is, no one's rights were at risk when someone voted for Kamala Harris. That is not the case for those who voted for Donald Trump. And here's another story along those lines. This is shared by somebody named Ashley Smalls. She writes, quote, "My conservative cousin has just found out that he has nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. We've heard him word for word say he doesn't believe women should have property, but he was still expecting women in his family to let him eat at their property." Yeah, she makes a very good point. Here's another story. This one was shared online by a Trump voter. They wrote the following, quote, "I voted for Trump. My wife sent me divorce papers. What do? I didn't even know it was possible to be served divorce papers this quickly. I don't even know what to say. I am shocked I married somebody willing to throw away our entire life over politics. Last week we were happy. Today we are getting divorced. She won't have a discussion. She says nothing will change her mind. Insists she is going to report my parents because they live off of disability, but my dad does some cash work auto repair, so now I am worried for my whole family. She wants me to buy her out of the house. We have $300,000 in it, plus built a 4-bay garage since we bought it 3 years ago. I can't afford that. When I told her this, as she was packing up her things, she said, quote, I guess you're finally going to really know how it feels to be effed by a Democrat. Her name is on the deed, but not the mortgage. I'm not confident that I can reason with her. What do I do? Where do I start? How do I fix this? Is anybody else experiencing this in the wake of the election results? Well, what you could do is not vote against the interests of the women in your life. Another user online shared the following story. They said, quote, "So my sister-in-law voted Trump, now regrets it. Wants to die. Her daughter's calling her a Nazi. She said she voted for him because she didn't want abortion and believed the lie of teachers giving trans surgery and his policies. When asked about his policies, she could not give one." Here is a story from a mom with 2 daughters in college who are now refusing to go to any family gatherings because their grandmother and aunts, the mom's sisters, voted for Trump. She shared the following, quote, "My kids won't come to Thanksgiving or Christmas. I know, this is fake. I'm a troll. This never happened, blah, blah, blah." This is 100% true. I have 2 daughters that are both in college. We have a family group chat with my parents, all of my siblings, and all the grandchildren. My parents and siblings are all Trump voters/supporters and are not shy about it. Most family gatherings will devolve into arguing between them and myself. I grew up in this shit show. My kids did not. After the election, my kids silently left the group chat. My mothers and sisters are trying to plan Thanksgiving through the chat. When my mother noticed my daughters left, she called to ask me why. I told her they are grown adults, so she would need to ask them. So she did. One of my 2 daughters is lesbian. When my mother asked the 2 girls, they told my mom that they would no longer be attending any family functions, including Christmas and Thanksgiving. This created a shit show on an epic scale in the family chat. My mother tried to explain to my kids that their vote had nothing to do with them. My oldest explained that they exposed their character and they were raised to not engage with people that condone rape, lying, and cheating. She told my mother that your votes will directly impact our lives in a negative way, and you guys did not care. You chose a politician's hollow words over your grandkids. There was more, and I'm paraphrasing. My parents and siblings are furious. I think it's important to say that I pay for both of my kids' college, their health insurance, car insurance, food, and gas. gas. I pay for airfare when they come home. They don't work. My deal with them was if they went to school and got good grades, I would pay if I could. My mother wants me to cut them off until they come to Thanksgiving and Christmas. I said no. I have my kids' backs and they are adults. I will not force them to make a choice they do not want to make. My siblings are saying I am an a-hole and I'm dividing the family. I honestly never thought I would be in this insane situation, but here we are. I commend you for allowing your children to stand for their principles and for you having their backs. I think that shows actual strength in this situation. This is just really tragic stuff we're seeing. I mean, people truly don't seem to understand that when you vote against human rights, and that directly impacts your own family members, don't expect them to act like, oh, it's just politics, everything is okay. Midas Touch contributor Tennessee Brando wrote a brilliant song about all of this. He calls it Cheaper Eggs, and if you don't mind, I want to play it for you now.
The red hats are flexing, they're all acting thrilled. They don't know how tariffs work, but soon they sure will. They think their leader saved them and he's restored their faith. But we see they cut their noses off to spite their own face. They sold out their daughters and they threw away their friends on a senseless notion it could all be great again. When they scream we didn't vote for this, remind them yes you did. And ask them how it's going with them cheaper eggs. We pointed out the obvious, they called us a liar. Got their information straight from a dumpster fire. Now they're turning up the hatred and they're thumping on their chest for a man who wouldn't wipe his nose on their Sunday best. They pinned all their faith on the devil's coat. So now is the time they can all sit back and gloat. But once the dust settles and reality creeps in, they'll slowly realize the true enemy within. But they sold out their daughters and they threw away their friends on a senseless notion it could all be great again. When they scream we didn't vote for this, remind them yes you did. And ask them how it's going with those cheaper eggs. I really hope it's worth it for them cheaper eggs.
Thanks, Tennessee Brando. Remember to subscribe to his channel on YouTube, by the way. Now, let's get back into these stories. Here are some other people shocked to learn that Trump's policies are going to harm their own family members. MAGA influencer Benny Johnson, who was found to be funded by Russia as part of that tenant media scandal, wrote the following, quote, "It is my honor to inform you all that Project 2025 was real the whole time." This prompted a Trump supporter named Peggy, who has a gay son, to write the following, "Better leave my son out of this, he's gay, but don't believe in the trans thing or changing any male parts. He voted for Trump and I'm hoping this Project 2025 doesn't mess with my son. He don't partake in the LGBTQ. He just wants to be left alone." Well, Peggy, Kamala Harris wanted your son to be left alone. And yes, he is part of the LGBTQ community. It is Donald Trump and Republicans who do not want to leave your son alone. I just can't believe this denial that we are seeing from people. Another MAGA influencer, Matt Walsh, wrote the following. He shared a similar message about Project 2025, writing, quote, "Now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that, yeah, Project 2025 is the agenda, LOL. And then a Trump supporter responded to him saying the following, quote, "I am black. I just got into politics this year. I lean to the Republican thinking Trump doesn't want Project 2025. I love Matt Walsh and I really hope he is joking. This shit is kind of scary for people like me, bro." Well, people are about to find out the hard way, I guess. Here's a video posted by a Latino for Trump who is now upset to find that all of the Trump supporters in his neighborhood are now refusing to play with his kids. Watch this.
Hola familia. Aquí con ustedes, haciendo este...
So for all the English-speaking people that are watch this video, basically the guy is talking about his experiences living in a neighborhood filled with other Trump supporters. He wanted his kids to play with the other Trump supporters, but guess what? They don't want his kids to play with their kids because their kids are Hispanic, to the point where they're going to scare the kids off by shooting guns in the air. But this is what you wanted. This is what y'all picked. So don't complain and don't bitch. This is what you chose.
Here's a story about a DACA recipient who voted for Trump, who is now terrified that his parents may be deported under Trump's mass deportations. This user wrote the following, quote, "A true story. One of my employees, a former DACA recipient who became a U.S. citizen through marriage, recently shared his reasons for voting for Trump. His parents, who are undocumented, have worked hard to make a life here, his father in construction and his mother in medical equipment manufacturing. Despite the risks, he feels the need to protect them, especially now. His choice to support Trump was driven by concerns over inflation, which he believes has made it increasingly hard for his parents to make ends meet on their wages. He wasn't aware of the mass deportation narrative until he started getting text messages from people saying, quote, 'Pack your bags,' people not realizing he is actually a U.S. citizen now. He started researching it, and now he is utterly terrified for his two parents." Here's another post along those lines. This person writes, quote, "My mom's coworker voted for Trump because of the, quote, economy, and is now in a panic because she is worried her undocumented husband will get deported. Face, meet, leopard." I'd like to speak with you for a quick moment about climate and make clear that this issue will always remain a top priority for us here at Midas Touch. And activists across the country are already working hard to ensure that we not only protect, but build on the climate success of the Biden-Harris administration. After the election, Lori Lodes, who is the executive director of Climate Power, spoke at a press conference in Washington, D.C., alongside major climate action groups, laying out the stakes of the 2024 election for the American people. Lori emphasized that thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, over 330,000 new jobs are now being created across the U.S. Energy costs are falling, and cleaner energy is rapidly becoming more accessible. She drew a powerful parallel to her time defending the Affordable Care Act, noting how, when threatened, people realized what they would lose. Lori warns that if Republicans dismantle the Inflation Reduction Act, it's not about some sort of abstract law. It's about gutting good-paying jobs, slashing tax credits that ease energy bills, and derailing community progress, particularly in local economies. And when that actually hits home with communities like it did with the Affordable Care Act, the pressure can become far too great on the anti-climate forces in the GOP, and their efforts can completely collapse. Heck, even Speaker Johnson and key Republicans are divided on this very issue, with some in their ranks standing up for those clean energy investments. But Lori says just as people united to defend healthcare, communities, workers, and leaders across the country will stand strong to protect clean energy jobs and progress, refusing to let this hard-won momentum slip away. So Midas Mighty, let's stay strong, let's protect these jobs, let's protect the future of our country and our planet. Now, back to the video. Here is an unemployed Trump voter who said they voted for Trump because he promised to kill Obamacare, but says he hopes Trump keeps his hands off the Affordable Care Act, which he relies upon. Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. Here's what this guy wrote online. He wrote the following, quote, "I just voted for him because he's going to kill Obamacare. I am unemployed and Obamacare effing sucks. I'd rather just have the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, by itself instead of this communism shit." And then someone responded to him by saying, "Obamacare is the ACA. It is literally keeping you alive. You voted to take away your health care." And then the original poster wrote back, quote, "Why the F do people have two different names for it? Obama equals bad and affordable equals good. I effing hate Democrats." Well, if you remember, it was the Republicans who branded it as Obamacare originally to try to scare people like you. Maybe your hate should be directed at those trying to take away your health care and not the people who are trying to actually save your life. How about that? Here's another story similar to that one. This person writes, quote, "Woman in my mom's group approved of abortion ban, grew a human with her POS husband. Husband now left. She voted for Trump because she is trad." That means like a traditional housewife. "She is now complaining that Trump might take her Social Security because she did not think it applied to her. Only immigrants. I want off this planet." Sometimes, me too. Me too. And many of Trump's voters are now realizing that Trump's policies are about to affect their bank accounts in a big way as a result of his planned tariffs. Here's a story someone shared. They wrote the following, quote, "So we had a meeting at work with possible tariffs on vehicle parts. We are cutting holiday bonus because we have to stock up on parts. And my fellow coworkers who voted for this to happen had surprise Pikachu face, dumb Fs. One of you shared with us in our comments here the following, quote, "I personally own a small business in the field of construction, and I could testify that my business has already started preparations for the tariffs. Prior to the election, I had conversations with suppliers and vendors about tariffs. Businesses are preparing. Americans can pretend that the tariffs aren't real, but I promise you that the rising prices and potential layoffs will be very, very real." Thank you for sharing that with us. Another commenter of ours wrote the following, quote, "A, quote, family friend that voted for Trump found out that he is losing his job because the company is hunkering down for oncoming tariffs. I laughed in his face and said, 'I told you so.' You could see his heart break. It was glorious." Here's another story. This person wrote, quote, "One of my general contractors I partner with is a Trump guy. We want a new job that will start next year. I just told him I will not honor today's materials pricing past January. He asked why. I said tariffs could cause a 100% increase in the cost of goods sold or more, that I would send new pricing in the spring. He said, but I have to sign the fixed price contract with them tomorrow. And there you have it. One lesson learned, 2 days too late. Too bad, so sad." And gamers who voted for Trump are now furious at potential price hikes to their gaming consoles, responding to a story that console prices could skyrocket by 40% due to Trump's victory, and tariffs could make a PlayStation 5 Pro cost up to $1,000. A Trump supporter wrote the following, "This shit better be fake news." Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but none of this is fake news. This is your new reality under Donald Trump. This is what you voted for. You broke it, you bought it, and now you have to experience the consequences of your actions. And sadly, we do too. But at least we can go through these next few years with a clean conscience, and we are going to work here at the Midas Touch Network and in this pro-democracy community to fight back every single day. And we can only do that with your support. So please remember to hit subscribe. Help us get to 3.5 million subscribers. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you soon.
Okay, well, as you can see, I think I'm right about what I'm saying about this year's holidays. They're going to be a shit show for a lot of people. That girl at the beginning, let me say something here. I could sympathize with her if, say, Kamala was running against somebody of a honorable stature, a Republican, who wasn't racist or something like that. I could say, yeah, maybe the family's being a bit too harsh with her, okay? But in this case, I have to side with her family because she sounds like a person who might be smart or intelligent, okay? You know what I'm saying? She doesn't come off as a racist, but the fact that she voted for a racist and voted for all the goddamn bullshit that this son of a bitch had been saying for years while he's been campaigning for another term as president since he lost to Biden. How can we see this in any other way? Of course her family's going to be insulted by that. They're obviously liberals, her family, so they raised her and she turns out to be the worst of the worst as of a Republican. Where the hell did they go wrong? Doesn't she have any principles? It baffles me, because, yeah, you're heartbroken because her family's turned on her, but you know what? This is one of those times where I'm siding with the family. They're not being harsh, okay? They're letting her fucking know how disappointed they are with her because they thought they raised her better than that. And she turns around and tells them, apparently thinking they were gonna, oh, wonderful. She tells them, I voted for Trump. And, you know, if she was my daughter, I'd have said the same thing. Get the fuck out of my house, you fucking racist. And don't forget to take the sheet with you on the way out. You know, I can't fathom how somebody raised in a Democrat house could turn around and do a whole complete U-turn and turn red like she did, and voted for the worst of the worst of the worst Republicans that she could have ever voted for in her life. Her parents didn't do a very good job. That's where I'm going to fault the parents. You guys failed. You guys were supposed to raise her better than that, and look what she'd created, a fucking monster. All right. Now you could hear she had a kid in the background. I pity that kid, because God only knows what she's going to teach that kid growing up. You know, if her head was that twisted by Trump, she's got no common sense. She's a danger to the damn child that she's got in her house. And I like I said, I can't feel bad for her. I'm sorry if that makes me sound rude and mean-spirited and stuff. I got principles and beliefs too, and one of them doesn't include accepting racism as a good thing. Apparently she does. She said she believed in him wholeheartedly, and she's not going to be sorry for voting for him. That tells me she is a hardcore right-winger to the nth degree, who doesn't care, you know, about rounding up Latinos and exporting them the hell out of this country, who doesn't care about cutting Social Security and Medicare, you know, and people's access to safety net programs in this country. You know, think about all the things that he said in his campaign. She supports it all wholeheartedly, 100%. Is that someone you want to cry for? No, not me. In fact, that's what I'm doing, okay? I'm clapping, because now it's going to be the beginning for her learning things about Trump the hard way, as a lot of Americans will be doing in the coming months, you know, and years ahead. They're going to learn a lot of things. And you know what? That is a good thing, that people are going to have to learn the hard way, because by the time we get to the midterms, the Republicans are going to lose a lot. They're going to lose a lot of their base, because people are already starting to wake up to the fact that, you know, Trump really meant what he said. Which brings me to this. Comedy. If we're going to chastise comedians for saying something that's, you know, considered a joke, and it has a racist element to it, okay, then why aren't people saying, oh, that was funny, you know? No, instead what do? They shout them off the stage and everything. My point is that if the majority of Americans think Trump is okay, and they think he's funny by telling all these by saying, not telling, but saying all these racist things, they're just, you know, they brush it off as saying, oh, he's just being funny. Really? So Roseanne should have never got kicked off her show for saying, you know, that racist tweet that she did on, you know, back then. In other words, you support that. And believe me, there are a lot of Republicans who do support her, especially MAGA people, think that she should have got away with it. So apparently, not everyone is on the same page in this country when it comes to what's right and wrong, what's ethical and unethical. Okay? We're not all on the same fucking page. So we never really got that message out there that these things are bad. All right? I don't know why that's happened or how that's happened, because I think Hollywood has gone to great lengths to try to illustrate that it is bad, and trying to stop, you know, racist things, you know, getting out there, especially when it comes to these bland comedies that they make now, where there's really nothing funny because they're too worried about saying something controversial. Apparently, nobody wants that. They want the controversial. They want to hear the N-word spoken proudly on the air. They want to be able to hear that shit, because that's what they want. You know? I think Hollywood's got it backwards. The election, last week's election, proved that Americans are still ready for more racism. You know? Even the new generation of people, the young people, they're all in it too. Apparently because they say the majority of people under the age of 30 voted for fucking Trump. So where, you know, my generation and the generation before us failed. and trying to educate the youth of this country that that's wrong. That's not acceptable. You know, how the hell do you pound that into people's head? You know, it's evil getting its way because good isn't doing hard enough, isn't trying hard enough, okay, to beat it back. And you can't beat it back by trying to be kind and understanding with the other side. You can't. And the reason you can't is because the nation now is way too divided. And it's too divided because of people like Trump and other demagogues like him who have spent decades dividing this country in half. Okay? Pitting people against people. And you know the saying, a house divided cannot stand. Well, our country is more divided than ever, so it can't stand. That's the reason why last week we ended up with Trump again. If our country was healthy, it wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have been voted in there. He wouldn't even have got a first term if our country was in better shape. But our morals are fucked up. Our principles are fucked up. The way we think about each other is fucked up. Okay? It's gotten so bad that people are just out there, being self-centered because they're too afraid to engage other people. Because you don't know if you're talking to a racist or something. Okay? You just don't know. People are so introverted today. And Trump goes out there and he speaks to those folks and makes them even more scared. But tells them at the same time, I'll fix it. I'll fix that. I'll protect you. I have all the answers. Even though he won't tell you what they are. Until after you vote for him. And then when you find out, you're hitting the ceiling. Okay, but that's the thing. And I feel like, there's really a lot here to pick apart with that video and other videos and more people that will complain from MAGA. Buyer's remorse, like I told you. There's going to be a lot of people soul searching from now on. That young lady there, she's hurt because her family doesn't want nothing to do with her. They don't want to see her. She's going to have to do some self-examination and find out why that is, if she cares to know. If she cares to understand where they're coming from. She should have already known. I don't know why she thought they were gonna accept that she voted for this guy. Obviously, she didn't see Trump as such a bad thing that everybody else in this country saw. So that means she wasn't really paying very good attention, as far as I'm concerned. I guess education really doesn't counter, stupidity, because the thing that creates this problem is laziness. People not willing to fucking do their homework. People not willing to fact check. Just today, somebody commented. He didn't comment. He responded to my comment. I was talking about the state of Kentucky. There were Jefferson County. They had some problems with the voting system down there, and they had to delay people voting until they could iron out the technical problems. Okay. Got a response back saying, oh, it was a Wi-Fi problem that was the issue. So just to I checked it out. No, there was no Wi-Fi problem. For the first point, voting systems are not interconnected through the internet. Okay, there's no internet access to these voting machines. Okay, they are individual systems in themselves. Okay, we have a thing that will count the votes, okay, but there's no internet, okay, involved in the voting systems. So that was problem number one about the Wi-Fi thing. Problem number two is that not only were they having problems, technical problems, it come out that some people were complaining that they would select Trump. They would select Trump and they'd get Harris or something like that. It would, the thing was flipping votes. So they shut it down, okay? And then there was other problems in Kentucky, different things. But there was no power outage, okay? Because somebody was saying, oh no, the power went out. No, there was no power outage. People were being delayed because they are having issues with the machines. Now, whether or not these issues were genuine, I don't know. When it comes to election times, I mean, you never know the shenanigans that people might pull. But whatever they've been telling people about the reasons why these things happen are lies. At least the Wi-Fi story is a lie, because like I said, it's already been said time and time and time. Even in court, it's been said time and time again. Remember the Dominion voting machines? They said right there in court, public information, these things are not attached to the internet. Okay? There is no internet with these things. And the reason being is for the very reason people are afraid of. So they won't get hacked. There's nobody can get into the voting machine from like Russia using the internet. There's no way. It doesn't happen. There's no physical connection. There's no wireless connection to that. These machines are insulated from that. Okay? So the only way a person can tamper with that is actually being there, or actually having done something to the machine before it was actually put out on the floor to be used. That's the only way they can fuck with it. So they can't do it on a big scale. All right, somebody would have to have been there to actually tamper with it and know how to do it. You know, so they have to be pretty smart about it. And then they said there's a whole bunch of fail safes in there just to prevent that sort of thing from happening. So, no, it wasn't anything to do with that. Now, the idea that some people are still complaining about votes being flipped or whatever, I don't know. Okay, they're all they say is they're investigating. Okay, to see if that's true. If it is, maybe, you know, not every machine is going to be 100%, right? It's like every time you buy something, you might get something that's defective. Maybe some of the machines were defective, but, you know, it wasn't a conspiracy, so who knows? But the fact is that people, that's how rumors get started. Somebody goes online and they say something like, oh, the Wi-Fi was down. Somebody shut it down. Okay, well, before you know it, because nobody else will bother to do like what I did, to read up on it, okay, they'll just go around and say, hey, I heard this guy said there was no Wi-Fi. And before you know it, you got 50,000 people all saying the same thing, and they all look like idiots because they don't understand the basic operation of a fucking voting machine. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So, you know, I feel like, you know, this girl is like one of those people that'll hear something like that and think that's the facts. Because, hey, it was put out there online by somebody you probably wouldn't even trust to watch your daughter. All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
How stupid are the people of Iowa? How stupid are the people of the country?
We have people that are stupid.
There's something wrong with them. And there's something wrong with her, too. She's slow, low IQ.
She's a low IQ individual.
Low IQ individuals.
Well, you know, you think they're stupid, and they are really pretty dumb. Stupid. She didn't know where the hell she was going. Does she drink? Is she on drugs? Some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life. A terrible, stupid person. And he's stupidly, because he's a stupid guy, too. He's a stupid son of a bitch. We have a guy who's a dumb son of a bitch.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. Root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
But do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle? There has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah, there has to be some form.
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. Now, we're a failing country. We are a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. We are a nation in decline. We are a failed nation. The American dream is dead.
Who doesn't know what a tariff is? As always, I'll do it myself. Walking around telling people what a tariff is when he has no idea what a tariff is. Pay attention. Tariff. Are you ready? Do you have paper out? Let's go. Very simply, a tariff is a tax. Republicans didn't like those things. On imported goods that are coming into your country from another country. Goods. With me so far, Donald? Exhausting is what it is, teaching all the TikTok. All right, let's say there's a 3% tariff on iPhones. With me so far? Follow me. This 3% tax is by the U.S. government. They are putting this tax on iPhones. So let's say our iPhones are getting made in, I don't know, China. The 3% tax is not being pushed to China. China is not paying the import tax. Chinese businesses are not paying the tariffs. Are you with me so far? Smart people get it. It's the 3% tariff, the tax, actually goes to the business in the United States that is importing, bringing in the iPhones. So the tax, not on China, but on the U.S. business bringing in the merchandise. Denying this is denying all reality. Now the 3% tax on the U.S. business, or Canadian if we're talking about Canada, actually gets put on their merchandise. Do you think, A, the business absorbs the cost and they take less of a profit, or B, do you think they pass this cost off to the customer and increase the cost of the iPhone? You didn't say B. I really don't think you have any hope of understanding anything ever. So as tariffs go up, the cost of the product to the consumer goes up. China doesn't pay, the business doesn't pay, and Trump doesn't pay. Now, if the argument is they're going to raise tariffs to force manufacturing to come back to the United States of America so they can increase manufacturing on U.S. soil, fine. However, costs are going to go up because there's a reason manufacturers left the United States in the first place to get cheap labor, no environmental regulations, no health and safety protection for the worker. The only way to bring this back to the United States and watch costs go down is to break unions, lower wages, ignore environmental regulation, and ignore health and safety. If you think that's for the worker, again, I can't help you.
Mr. Cow.
Yes?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I don't know. I always end up biting. Ask Mr. Fox, for he's much cleverer than I.
Mr. Fox, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Why don't you ask Mr. Turtle, for he's been around a lot longer than I. Me? I bite.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
the world may never know.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. All right, so I'm just gonna, quickly go over here some things that's, issues that are of concern, I think, and for a lot of people. It's one of the things is that Trump has announced that he's going to have former ICE director Tom Homan as his incoming border czar. Okay. He wants to start on his first day to begin mass deportation, pardon January 6th insurrectionists, and make his criminal cases vanish. Okay, let me say something. This people on I can't remember his name. Is Lawrence O'Donnell, I think. Yeah, was talking about the deportation thing, saying Trump can't do it. He can't do it because it's going to cost the country $350 million, and take up resources we don't have in order to deport 11 million Americans out of this country. You know what? I say bullshit. We spend $350 million like in a day's time just to the, our national defense budget. Okay? That's nothing. We handed over how many trillions of dollars to bail the banks out? Okay, during the housing crash here, okay? You think Trump is going to blink an eye over $350 million? No. He's not going to care what that's going to add. I mean, they're already saying he's going to add to the deficit. These are things that will add to the deficit, okay, when he does this. And he will find people that'll do it. Don't think for 1 second that it's impossible because it costs too much. Money is no object to this country, ever. Republicans like to bitch and complain about spending, but they're the biggest spenders whenever they get into power. They spend the biggest. They actually contribute more to the deficit than the Democrats do when they're in power. So don't tell me that they are financially conservative or, financially responsible. They are not. $350 million, that's a drop in the bucket. They'll spend that and then some just to get rid of the people they don't like. So I don't agree with Lawrence O'Donnell on that. And then Trump demands candidates for Senate Majority Leader to agree to recess appointments for his nominees, meaning Trump could bypass Congress. He wants quick confirmations in the Senate, and Elon Musk endorses Rick Scott for Senate leadership. Who the fuck is Elon Musk to do that? This goes back to, people like George Clooney, who, said, I'm going to support Biden and all. They're just people with money. Okay? That doesn't mean they have any fucking common sense about the political arena that they're bitching about. But no, you see, this is a sign of the wealthy manipulating, pulling the strings of our political system, and it's wrong. It is fucking wrong. They shouldn't even be doing that. Okay? Let's see this one here from Politico. This is written by Michael Schaefer. entitled, "Trump Won't Just Change Washington Politics, He'll Change Life in the City Itself." Donald Trump's victory signals radical changes ahead for Washington, the capital city, but also for D.C., the hometown. After years of imagining themselves safely ensconced in a blue bubble, residents of the metropolis that houses the government could be looking at some major economic dislocation, professional upheaval, and the transformation of everything from city budgets to municipal abortion laws and even local public school curriculums, all as a result of the national election. That represents a major break with tradition and could have a huge personal impact on the capital's regular citizens as well as its power class insiders. Candidates have forever vowed to transform how quote-unquote Washington functions, but for the most part, the way locals live, work, and play doesn't change much from administration to administration. The decades-long boom that turned the capital regime into the ultimate liberal metro area and left 4 of the country's 6 richest counties in the Washington suburbs began under Reagan and trundled along even as the political pendulum swung back and forth. Now, though, people who spend their days staffing the government, researching policy, or lobbying decision makers may find that their home lives are not so immune from politics after all. Trump, too, arrives in office with specific plans for remaking the bureaucracy, loud grievances against the local government, and broad power over things like abortion rights, none of which existed when he first took office in 2017. In my conversations around town this week, ordinarily sanguine D.C. citizens found it a jarring realization. Start with those homes Washington has long lived under, the assumption that it is recession-proof. Thanks in large part to government jobs and federal contracting, Trump has sought to reclassify and possibly fire tens of thousands of federal workers and relocate tens of thousands more to other parts of the country. On a civic level, that's the equivalent of a few big factories closing. About a quarter of the district's 800,000 jobs are federal. There are many more around the region. Now that was laid out in Project 2025 about getting rid of people in government and replacing them with folks who pledge their loyalty to Trump and Trump alone. Okay, that was stated right there in Project 2025. So he's going to start that off right off. Given that many locals now have the bulk of their wealth tied up in the once affordable region's hefty real estate prices, those are factory closings that could have a massive impact even on those whose jobs remain secure. When lots of your neighbors lose their jobs, it tends to whack property valuations. Work, too, could change significantly. Trump's efforts to strip civil service protections for chunks of the federal workforce and related efforts, like the Heritage Foundation's recent campaign to access bureaucrats' emails in order to hunt down insufficiently loyal workers, that's also in Project 2025. Okay, remember I was saying they were going to be looking for people who are pledged loyalty to Trump and Trump alone? Well, they can't do that unless they can monitor these folks after they pledge their loyalty, right? Represent a big change in a culture that has historically prided itself for a kind of nerdy, dispassionate expertise. White House suspicions of federal careerists are commonplace, but the idea of a system under which people could actually be bounced for political reasons represents a huge change. For that matter, the idea of a system where non-politicals can be mass fired at all is radical. People who made careers working for Uncle Sam have long accepted the trade-off of job security in exchange for not getting to earn as much as top private sector pros. Whatever else it would do to public policy, the end of that bargain would change the meaning of work for huge numbers of people in and around Washington. These big moves would probably lead to a political and legal fight on a smaller level. The return of a Trump administration would likely upend the expectations some workers have developed over the last 5 years by ordering a much stricter work-from-home regime for 200,000 federal jobs currently located in the district. This longtime GOP cause would likely please the city administration, which has pushed return to office in the name of shoring up downtown businesses. But it would still mean an immediate and tangible change for federal workers. The most jarring possible changes, though, might have to do with the local laws of the Capitol itself. Under the Nixon-era bill that established the city government, Congress is still allowed to pass city legislation whenever it wants. Historically, this has led to occasional bouts of grandstanding around hot-button issues like drug legalization, but it has rarely been a transformative power in a city whose local rules still look a lot like other blue areas. Few federal lawmakers want to be responsible for city hall tasks like gas stove regulations. There's a reason to think that could change under a president inclined toward maximalist assertions of prerogative. Trump is known to dislike D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who enraged him by installing the, quote, Black Lives Matter, unquote, street installation opposite his White House in 2020. Quote, we'll take over the horribly run capital of our nation, unquote, Trump said at one campaign rally. Quote, we're going to take it away from the mayor, and again, that doesn't make me popular there, but I have to say it, unquote. That kind of disdain could lead to Trump acolytes involving themselves in all sorts of things the feds used to leave alone. For one thing, the hottest button issue of all, abortion, is now a local one thanks to the Supreme Court's Dobbs ruling. Trump said on the campaign trail that he thinks abortion should be up to the state. And his campaign told me over the summer that he included D.C.'s government in that understanding too. But many conservatives on the Hill believe that Congress is the capital's legitimate government and that the local elected body only exists with their permission. Even the sainted President Barack Obama agreed to ban local tax funding of D.C. abortions during an impasse with Congress. It's easy to imagine Trump okaying major restrictions sought by members of his own party. To the horror of pro-life activists, the district currently has one of the country's most liberal policies for later-term abortions. Yet the scale of conservative ambitions for changing local Washington goes well beyond the high-profile issues. One section of the Project 2025 blueprint calls for the president to use his authority over D.C. schools to ban critical race theory and restrict the use of non-biological pronouns. Though the idea that the president has unilateral power over D.C. schools is debatable, the fact that the policy book goes so deep in the local weeds is notable. It shows how much the conservative movement wants to deploy government to take control of culture. And after years of feeling insulated from far-right culture wars, residents of Blue D.C. may find that they, or in this case their kids, are uniquely exposed. Their home is the one place in the country with no fully empowered legislature or school board between the citizens and the feds. Trump may have disavowed Project 2025, but the fact that Democrats made its policy proposals and campaign issue known and lost perversely lends it a degree of credibility. It's also a decent indication of where conservative policy thought is at this moment, which is in the gutter, basically. In fact, a bunch of other conservative ambitions for waging ideological war via city legislation have been foiled by Democrat senator or the White House in recent years. One GOP measure would have banned the district from forbidding right turns on red and ended its use of cameras for traffic enforcement. Another would have forbidden it from adopting California emission standards for cars. Bipartisan legislation last year rejected a criminal code rewrite that some deemed too permissive. DC, they're going to be under the gun, and hell, everything is going to be touched. And what do people say about Donald Trump and what he touches? Okay, you're right. That's what they say. And, when he gets done with, whatever he wants to do, after 4 years, there's not going to be any reason in the world for anybody to think that MAGA, whoever they want to put in Trump's place, is the right choice for this country. They put everything they had behind Trump, okay, wholeheartedly. And now we know MAGA is insane. MAGA, they're going to lose. Well, they've lost credibility already, but they're going to be considered the dirt beneath our feet now after this next 4 years. And I would wager that in half that time, this country is already going to wake up to that, and we'll see the result of that in a couple of years when the Senate and the has to run, the House is run. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The thing is that if Trump wants to keep all those promises and things he says he wants to do, and he wants to do them, he ain't going to be popular. And if he wants to be popular, then he's not going to be able to make good on those promises he made. But he can't do both. You know what I'm saying? He can't possibly do both. So he's going to lose out on one or the other, and that's going to cost him. And it's going to, it's going to cost a lot of other Republicans, like in the House and the Senate, especially if Trump tries to endorse somebody, his endorsement won't mean shit. Okay? It ain't going to matter. His word is not gold anymore. It's more like bronze. So, he's really not the guy that MAGA is going to want to pin all their hopes on to maintain control. They ought to ditch him as soon as they can, and find somebody to replace him as soon as they can, because Trump, they got him in the White House. That's really all they wanted out of him. They wanted their foot in the door, so to speak. So he's in there. They don't need him anymore. Okay? Trump, they don't need Trump. But you see, that short-sightedness is going to backfire on them in the months to come. You'll see that. And here's the thing that, I know I say this a lot sometimes, and it's an idea. Maybe I say it in frustration or in anger sometimes whenever we have elections. But, democracy, in a democracy, you have, in order for it to work in the appropriate fashion, if you want something, you have to give something. You know what I'm saying? And this goes for both sides, Democrats and Republicans, okay? In order to get what you want, you have to give something they want. It's called the art of compromise. We lost that. We lost that a long time ago when we started to get all radical in our thinking, and we started putting in radical politicians and stuff like that. We really lost sight of the fact of, the only way democracy can stay healthy and stay relevant is when people are willing to compromise. Do you see any compromise these days with anybody? I think Kamala kind of came close to that by, accepting the support of Liz Cheney and a lot of other Republicans. She showed more openness to listening to the other side than, say Joe Biden did when he ran, because I don't really recall Joe Biden really opening the door to Republicans or anything like that. But Kamala was willing, to go that little extra, to give a little in order to get, because she knew that you can't win battles by simply saying it's my way or the highway, okay? And that's the way Trump was talking through his campaign. It's my way or the highway. Well, if you can't win anything with that attitude, even if you're president, you can't win with that attitude. If you can't have it your way all the time, okay, then nothing ever gets done. The country stays stagnant, because when you put up that fucking unreasonable attitude, the other side does the same. And then you start the snowballing effect of, as time goes on, people just become that way no matter what, over everything. And when that happens, then the country divides. And that's where we are. You see, along the way, nobody ever caught on to that fact, because nobody wanted to compromise. If you compromise, you're weak. We don't want nothing to do with you. Have you heard that? Yeah. You see, because people are of the mind that if we don't get everything we want, we don't want the other side. You know what I'm saying? We're all selfish. We took politics and we turned it into a selfish game, which is why I keep saying, we look at this as a football game. It's not a football game. Our lives are at stake. Our futures are at stake. Everything we do is at stake when we make the wrong choice. You know, we think it'll happen to the other guy. No. What the MAGA people, that's what they thought. That, oh, if anything bad happens, it's going to be them. It's not going to happen to us. Boy, they in for a hell of a surprise. Okay, if they haven't read Project 2025, which they didn't, okay, they may want to look at it now and prepare themselves because everybody's heads are going to be on the chopping block. Everybody. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. We're all going to get our asses kicked. And it's going to be your fault that we get them kicked because we warned you and you didn't listen. But, like I said, this is what people not compromising gets us to. We end up with a democracy that's taken away from us. And we did. We lost that democracy last week. We did. We lost it. Because the guy that's going to be president, he don't want to hear that word. He doesn't want to hear that fucking word. He don't believe in it. And he said as much. On his campaign, he don't believe in it. Why do you think he was always quoting Hitler all the time? You know? Why do you think he was, you know, Putin this and Putin that? And, you know, this fucking guy's not a Democrat or he's not a person that believes in democracy. No, he wants to be a dictator. Why? Because he is of the same mindset as the rest of us. He wants everything his way, and that's it. He figures you've got to be a dictator to run a country. Well, let's take a look at that. Look at the dictators we already have in the world today. How are those countries faring? You know? It doesn't work. Because to be a dictator means you're going to leave a lot of people behind. Everyone's going to suffer for your cause. Whether it's a good cause or a bad cause, they're going to suffer for it. Because the vision of one is not the vision of all. You're not taking all people's grievances into account. You're just shoving them aside and just putting up your own selfish ambitions. Dictatorships are designed to fail and designed to leave blood in their wake. Okay? You might say, well, how's a democracy any different? Well, at least you people have a voice. At least people can vote. At least people have representatives. At least people can have a union to protect themselves. Okay? None of these things exist in a communist or a dictatorship. Okay? None of these things exist in those kind of governments. People are just there as slaves to the government. All right? Even the corporations that exist in these governments have to follow the communist government rule, which is what Republicans are always saying. The government should stay the hell out of the corporations. Well, if Trump wants to be a dictator, he's going to have control over those corporations as well to make sure that they do what he wants. Because, hey, loyalty is more important than the loyalty to principle and the Constitution. Okay? That's what he's doing. So, you know, my friends, I feel like, you know, a lot of people must have been sleepwalking when they went into the voting booths last week because the things that were being said by Kamala Harris were good things. They were hopeful things, and they were a sign that, you know, she was willing to listen to the right wing, at least to give them something, at least to hear them out. She wasn't going to totally shut the door in their face. Okay? She certainly wasn't going to go after people's privacy and their freedoms and stuff like that. Now people are worried about those things. They're finding out he meant it, what he said in Project 2025. They're coming after you. 11 million Americans are going to be under the thumb here. And I'm telling you, you know, it's sad that, you know, people are going to learn these things the hard way, but apparently that just goes to what is about being human. People, you can't tell people what's right or wrong. They have to learn it for themselves. That's why we got so many people in prison. They know stealing is wrong, but they do it anyway. They know murder is wrong, but they do it anyway. You know, if people actually learned anything, you know, that, yeah, you can't do it and they wouldn't do it, hey, then we'd have a perfect society. But we don't, because we aren't perfect. Humans are not perfect. Therefore, anything humans make, religion-wise, government-wise, is not perfect in itself. If people thought that they were holding out hope that one day we're going to have the perfect election where all our woes will be solved, you're living in a dream world. That's never going to happen, not even in a democracy. You always lose to gain. Okay? You're going to lose something, you're going to gain something. That's the way it is in a democracy. And if you can't live with that, then, you know, I don't know what to tell you, because any other form of government isn't going to make you happy either. But that's the way it is in a democracy. You can't, there's no such thing as a perfect election where everybody gets everything they want. Nobody can do that. Nobody can promise you that. Believe me, we've tried every form of government that there could be on the planet. And in every single government, there's always going to be problems. Some bigger, some smaller, but there's always going to be dissatisfaction somewhere. You can't please everybody, like Abraham Lincoln said, you know. You can't please everybody. But the thing is that, you know, people seem to think that there is a way to do it. They don't like democracy, so they think there's something better. If there was, we would have thought of it already. But there isn't. Some country would have already figured it out by now. But they haven't. You know, we created a country to make it as fair as we could by giving everybody a chance to be heard. Okay, but that wasn't enough. We created a government where one person doesn't dictate to all, and the power is distributed, you know, through different facets, like the executive, the judicial, you know, branches of the government, and the legislative branches. You know, we try to divide the power so no one person can have all the power, and that still doesn't make people happy. You know, so what can we do? What the fuck do you want? Okay? You know, I feel like, you know, look, people need to get real when it comes to politics. Stop picking people that's got a big mouth and are famous only because they did a reality show. Stop picking people that were former actors, okay, and have a gift to gab. Stop picking people who have criminal backgrounds, okay, and have no fucking positive thing in their resume, and start choosing people that have, you know, principles, have an education, they generally care about the people they represent, all right, and they at least deliver, you know, 70 to 80% of what they promise you, okay? Look for people like that. Check them out. Kamala was the perfect choice for this country, and maybe it's because she was the perfect choice that we didn't pick her, because America is not perfect. You know, America isn't perfect. The voters are not perfect. They didn't see that. Instead, they try to focus on what's negative about her instead of the positive things she was doing and saying. You know, everybody was too busy. I mean, women were saying, I don't know about her. She gives me a bad vibe. Well, that's not something substantial. Okay, if you can't figure out what it is that's making you uncomfortable, then maybe the problem that, you know, is something more, you know, more on the surface. Maybe you just don't like her because she's black, okay? Or maybe the way she sounds when she talks. Maybe that's the reason why it rubs you the wrong way. Maybe, did you ever think of that? If you can't figure out what the hell it was that made you uncomfortable about her, because there was interviewing people that were Republican, or MAGA rather, and they listened to one of her speeches and stuff, and people were like, oh, I'm scared about what she's saying. I don't like her, you know, I don't know what's going, you know, what it is about her. You know, nothing. They couldn't come up with anything substantial, anything specific to bring to the table to talk about why they didn't see her as everybody else was seeing her. But we sure as hell could come out with all kinds of fucking shit about Donald Trump and the reason why we don't like him. Holy Christ. You know, the fucking treasure trove of things that we got to throw against the wall that shows that Donald Trump is not the guy to be president, it's full. And yet they were trying to find something bad about Kamala, and when they couldn't do it, they just wouldn't vote for her. No, it's because everybody's looking for the perfect candidate. Okay, why they thought Trump was the perfect candidate for them, I don't know. Because nothing that son of a bitch ever said was right. Nothing. So here we are. You know, here we are. And it's already beginning. The buyer remorse is already starting. It's taking root right now. Right as I'm speaking, it's already beginning. Things are going to start happening. More information is going to come out about what Trump's going to do before he even takes the oath, for Christ's sake. And by the time he does, things are going to get, the ball's going to be rolling. So he hits the ground running. And Lawrence O'Donnell there, I hate to tell you this, but $350 million is just a drop in the bucket to how much this government spends, and I'll tell you, that's not going to stop Trump from executing this goddamn, you know, deportation feat that he wants to do. It'll happen. It'll happen. All right, so that's it for today. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for health-related matters. And treat each other kind out there. Try to enjoy the times you have out there. I know things are going to be miserable for a time, but try to focus on the good things, because if you focus too much on the bad things, you're just going to destroy yourself mentally. You know, I don't know what to say. But just be good to each other out there, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.